In case you were hiding under a rock and didn't get the memo, Porsche has yet again come out with something achingly desirable, but something painfully similar to my own car. So knowing that, let's go on a journey to determine if Porsche, while all of us were not paying attention, has invented something that never existed before, a GT3 RS Touring. So if you're watching this, you're one of three things. Number one, a Porsche aficionado. Number two, a Porsche owner. Or number three, a longtime viewer of the show. Maybe there's a fourth, you're just a glutton for more Porsche punishment. Either way, you probably know this is my own personal car, and you've probably already seen our first drive review of this, the Porsche 911 ST, what I affectionately refer to as the Porsche 992 GT3 RS Touring. So with that, the point of today's exercise is to go through really the pedantic details of the differences between the two from an owner's perspective. Now, before you and I get too far down the road of this exercise, I'll give you the cliff notes of what we learned in the first drive review. This is more about light weighting and some very small tweaks rather than more power or making it a fast car. As a matter of fact, this is not meant to be a track car. This is all about driving dynamics on canyon roads, mountain roads, that kind of stuff. Maybe track days. And really the big changes are some of the lightweight bits. Yes, this one has the carbon fiber front cover. This one also has the carbon fiber front cover, but they add carbon fiber reinforced polymer to the doors, the fenders, as well as the roof. Yeah, optional here. I didn't do it on this car. Probably should have done it. But really, one of the big changes I wanted to share with you as terms of really, really small details, the coefficient of drag. That's how efficiently the car cuts through the air. This one, 3.4, believe it or not, this one is actually not as good at 3.5. Now that very small change in coefficient of drag does have a pretty sizable impact in the VMAX. Here, 186. Here, 199. If this were a wing car, it'd be 197. Now, there are some small detail changes in the way the air leaves the car. Like, for example, notice the grille here is different on this as opposed to this. I find this much more attractive, the way they have the mesh and the third light here. But then most importantly, they have a gurney flap here, little bit more downforce. Then they do some more lightweighting in other bits of the car we didn't discuss in the full first drive review. Like, for example, this has a lightweight battery, cuts about half the weight of the battery, which is about 20 pounds. We talked about the flywheel. The flywheel, by doing it here with a lightweight flywheel, cuts about 23 pounds. Now, this being something von Flacht, of course, there has to be more. Let's make a stop at the brake, see what I did there. This car is fitted with steel rotors as standard. I'd like to point out the largest steel rotors on any production car. However, one can have carbon ceramic rotors as an option. I fitted this one with the steel rotors. This can only be had with the carbon ceramic rotors. But then the wheels change on this car as well. Notice it's 2021 on this. Same here, but the design of the wheel changes. Now you look at this and thinking, but so does the GT3 RS. Yeah, it's a magnesium wheel, but they changed the design of the wheel. And notice it's layered, it's open here to drive some of the air to cool the brakes. And then like the GT3 RS, this carbon fiber reinforced polymer fender has vents down here. Now that brings us back to our discussion about how air moves around the car. Remember, we said this is a 0.35 coefficient of drag. Something contributing to that, the door handle. Notice it sticks out. It doesn't pop up and then go flush when the car is driving down the road like that car over there, which that is 0.1 coefficient of drag, lower than this, and has the higher VMAX. But a note about this, Porsche, they've never been huge about coefficient of drag. Remember the old ads with Volvo station wagons saying that they are more efficient going through the air than a Porsche 928, and the old joke was anything is more efficient because that car was like 0.36, 0.38, so they haven't changed that much. Today's comparison, a Hyundai Ioniq 6 sedan, that's 0.22. Now, it's more important on a car like that because efficiency translates to range. Not really the case here. You're looking to get air around the car as well as stability and, more importantly, how air leaves the car. Me personally, as an owner, I like this look better than that. So that's just a personal preference. Speaking of personal preference, some of the big changes on the inside. And here is where we come to some of the magnificent details of why freaks like me buy a Porsche. So the interior is basic 992 in overall design, but really what's happening here is a combination of Porsche exclusive manufacturer bits fitted as standard, then a heritage design package, then some GT3 RS bits, like for example, the shifter. Notice it's 10 mils lower. You would think it doesn't make a huge difference, but this brings your inner MX-5 Miata freak out, because if you think about driving a Miata, how short the shifter is there, that's kind of why it's perfect. This is connected to other big changes in the transmission, which we spent a lot of time talking about in the first drive review. Go and check that out. But overall, some of the biggest changes here is not just the lightweight, it's how you interact with the car between this shifter and the much heavier clutch. Then you look at the interior. Now, if you saw my episode where I spec that car out, I put a lot of options. I spent a lot of time detailing and going with a specific theme. Like, for example, I did the carbon fiber buckets in my car because I'm going to change the overall theme on the inside. But then I picked up some factory details like red contrast stitch or red on the tack, as well as a sport chrono. Here we see two worlds collide. Instead of speccing out the color of the tack and the sport chrono, what's fitted as standard here is green numerals. Sounds terrible, looks magnificent. Then a huge change that I made in my car, one can fit body color trim to the dash, the console, and the doors. Very rare, very few people do it. You can also do wood, believe it or not, real wood, or you can do carbon fiber, or it could be the standard gloss black, which I think is terrible. And they should probably have an option here to change it in all 911s, where instead of having, like, say, the color trim in mine, have it go all the way up the console. No matter which car you get, it's always black here. But in this car, it's been finished in leather. Now, that's not specific to the ST. One can do that in a serial production car. I've got a good friend of mine. He has a beautifully kitted out 992 Targa, and he has a bit of a darker tan interior. Maybe it's more saddle, and he did this shade of tan on the dash. Comes off the page. While we're talking about leather, got to talk about the hoop or loop, whatever you want to call it here. Instead of door handles like on my car, you actually pull these like a race car. Do they make a huge difference? Probably like a pound or two, but this is more about the pageantry. I would love to see that in my car. Maybe make it an option through Porsche exclusive manufacturer. Now, for those of you who don't know what Porsche exclusive manufacturer, basically there's 3 different avenues you can go to customize these cars. Yeah, over the years, through our options game, we give a lot of crap to Porsche about how much they charge for options. But being dead serious, one of the reasons people buy cars like these, and frankly, I bought the cars, you can make it completely your own, like I did with my car. You can go and spec out colors, even down to the minutia details. Like, notice it's two-tone here. You got a cognac and black. That's part of the heritage design package, which also changes the insert on the seat here. This is always cloth, no matter which version of car you get with this sports seat. But in other years, you could have spec'd this out with the Pepita, which is the houndstooth, or the Black Watch Plaid. But these model years with these heritage design cars, you can't do it on those cars. You can't do it on basic cars, only on heritage design cars like this. And here, something I've never seen before in a modern 911, the black pinstripes with the cognac insert, it is beautiful. A little bit of an aside here. There are different folks around the world who do custom versions after the fact, so you can change these out, because these are not permanent in the seat. It's actually Velcroed in. You can pull them out. My thinking is they're sports seats, and you should be able to put 5-point harnesses. That's probably why they come out. The only thing you have to fool with is the airbag sensor, and that's the official party line that Porsche gives you in the US for not offering it. Now, also as part of this heritage design package, it has the full leather interior. My car has the full Porsche exclusive manufacturer leather interior as well. But it being a GT3 Touring, there are some changes. Like this is smooth leather up here, as opposed to, there's a more like race tex leather, meaning it's not suede, it's got like a check in it, and it is real leather on the dash. This goes a step further in that they have leather around the vents. That is magnificent, and I will probably do on my next car. Something I regret that I didn't do on my car, I didn't even think about it, was the center mark on the steering wheel. A lot of people do that in red or yellow. Here they picked up the cognac of the two-tone black and cognac interior. This is a nice touch. I would do this on my car. And then one of my favorite details on this car, the floor mats. You can laugh at me all you want, but the floor mats. Those are heritage design floor mats. Again, picking up the two-tone black and cognac theme. It's got the cognac around the floor mat, but it has almost like that Berber rug feel from an original 911. If you look at what Singer is doing, they do it to the ultimate degree, but this from the factory is pretty lovely. Another interesting detail, these seats, these are the sports seats. Something I learned after the fact that you can do with these things, this little insert here, it's like a flat black, and that's the way I have it on my car, but these can be painted from the factory to match the body color of the car, which I would do. It's crazy expensive. You could do it after the fact. I don't know if it voids the warranty, but it does pop when you see it inside the car. And then the last detail we have to go over, there is like a half roll cage here. That is carbon fiber reinforced polymer. Pay no attention to that because this is not a U.S. market car. That option is not coming to the U.S. So it's cool looking. My thinking is it would be impossible to clean the rear window of this car, but nice touch. Now another detail I have to share with you, again, very pedantic with these types of cars. With the Porsche exclusive manufacturer heritage design package, the owner's manual folio changes to the leather that matches the leather inside the car. Okay, I'm a freak. But we have to take stock of what we're doing here today. This really is about lightweighting, even with all the details on the inside of the car. Another aspect of the heritage design, all of the trim you see on this car, it's gold. Don't really love that. That comes with this whole heritage design with the shore blue and ceramic wheels. But speaking of the wheels, where does the lightweighting come from? Overall, we learned in the episode it's about 200 pounds lighter than that car. But what if we were to drill in and see where do we get the biggest contribution of lightweighting? The wheels, it's the second biggest. The brakes, that's about 40 pounds of it. The wheels are about 23 pounds. And that lightweight clutch, it's about 22 pounds. And then they do something which probably not popular with aficionados or really purists like me, the rear wheel steering. They remove it from that car to make this car, and the idea is to save about 15 pounds, but they retune the steering in the front, and we learned it really doesn't have a huge impact. That car is a bit sharper going around corners than this car, but then what they do is they retune other bits. Like, for example, the PASM, the adjustable dampers, it's not about stiffness, it's about controlling body roll. As the clouds start to look a bit more ominous, I do need to share a note about the ride quality. This overall focus on the body roll rather than the stiffness or lack thereof of dampers, it's changed the ride quality a little bit. I would argue the ride quality of this might even be a bit better than my car, especially when pushing it hard here. You don't feel like you're getting beaten up even with the stiffer seats. I have to say, that is a bit of an unusual magic trick that they pulled off, one wholly unexpected. And really, that's what makes this car so much different. It's the combination of 200 less pounds with a completely different transmission. Those are the two things you notice, and this is coming from an owner. With that, that's when we get to the wish list. I don't have much. The wish list, you know what? I'm going to be selfish. I want one. I'll tell you what. I will trade in my GT3 Touring with very low miles to get this. The only catch is it needs to be a sticker. But I'm one man, this is the point of the episode. I turn around to you guys to opine in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, if you got value out of this episode, I would highly suggest you watch my episode where I introduced my personal car to you guys, where I went through all of the bits that I spec'd on that car. Fascinating because it shows you really how much you can customize a car like this. You can watch that here until I see you in the next episode. Bis später. Foolish me, almost got through this entire episode without sharing a change that, depending on how you look at it, could be considered minute, could be considered everything. And that is the badge. It's a Porsche after all. And this has the Heritage badge. What's the difference, you ask? Well, it's the way the Porsche is written at the top of the crest. So whatever that's worth to you, it does change on this car. Although it's not like the GT3 RS where it's a sticker. So it's a real crest that's made out of metal. Get it?